Water Talk listeners. We thought on today, the busiest travel day of the year, that many of you might be in your cars or on a plane or waiting and traveling to various destinations for the holiday weekend, that we would re-release a really special episode back from our second season. So maybe one that many of you national listeners had missed, that's just really important from a national point of view. And this is with Dr. Jairo Diaz, and really thinking about a region that I don't think many people, unless you're kind of in the know, are familiar with, and that's the Imperial Valley region in California. The Imperial Valley spans more than California, doesn't it, Sam?
Yes. So it is Imperial Valley on the Mexicali side, El Valle de Mexicali, but it is the same valley, just different names. And then in Yuma. So we have all of that region operating together between Yuma, Imperial, he will refer also to El Centro, and Mexicali Valley.
So California, Arizona, Mexico.
Correct.
Yes. And I think we were thinking it'd be an interesting one to play for a bunch of different reasons. One reason was just what's on our holiday tables. And a lot of the produce this time of year, anything green that's on a holiday table, is oftentimes coming from the Imperial Valley. So, lettuce, green onions.
He talked about onions, carrots, and
that's right.
cabbage and others. So some of these green vegetables that you're seeing on your table, just think about that portion on the south end. He also talks about that this is the last portion of the Colorado River. He called it the tails of the Colorado River.
But it's the largest appropriation,
correct,
right? So it's at the end, and it's the largest amount, which is interesting. And I think the other thing that made me think about it is the Imperial Valley is defined as an actual desert. Right? It is a desert. So we are growing all of this food in the desert with water from the Colorado River, and that is the largest appropriation. But it is a very important agricultural region. So that's just all very complicated, I think, to think about. And then to make matters even more complicated, one of the other reasons I wanted to re-release this episode is because he really talks about the border as a living, active border, which you'll listen to, is that, there are people who live in Mexico and work in California and cross the border every single day. And I don't think that many of us really think about that agricultural workforce in that context, as this is a living border.
And I think, Malika, also, this is kind of a region that, while it has a border, it has many different family, company, production ties that depending on Jairo talks about that everything has, what is the strength that every region is bringing, they use it for the greater good, which is basically sometimes labor, sometimes the different crops. Sometimes he will talk about cooling and having all these refrigeration facilities. And think of this as just one unit that, yes, it happened to have different borders between Arizona and California, between Arizona and Mexico and California. So anyway, just think of it as bigger than just these lines that are there, but mostly as one large enterprise.
Faith, anything from you?
Yeah, I mean, thinking back to talking with Jairo, where we touched a little bit on the issues around the Colorado River. And of course, we've dedicated some time to that this season, and it was a different time, obviously, but many of the same issues remain. And just in terms of thinking of the over allocation of the Colorado River and what's happening around climate change and aridification and all of these kinds of things. And, just the very interesting fact that the Imperial Valley is the largest, appropriator. And, as somebody who lives in Arizona, is from Arizona, it's just always really, really interesting to think that we as a state, as the most junior, water rights holder on the Colorado, we could lose all our Colorado River water right before the Imperial Valley ever lost a drop. So it's a very very fascinating topic, and it's very active at the moment as all these states and Mexico come together to try to figure out how to manage the Colorado River into the future. So that part is really, really relevant at the moment.
For reference, the allocation to Imperial is 2.8 million acre feet. The allocation to Arizona is 2.8 million acre feet. So the amount of water used in Imperial is the same amount of water used for the entire state of Arizona from the Colorado. One last thing, like as you are seeing news of the Colorado River, even though you are not in the Colorado River Basin, it really matters, because how water is allocated there is what you're seeing on your holidays season on your table. That food that you're seeing there, it's really affected of how we're deciding water in the Colorado for this winter season.
Yeah, absolutely. My partner makes fun of me because I put green onions on everything. Like, it's like my default, my go-to. He's like, do you think you can eat something without a green onion on it? It's like, no, it's the garnish of choice over here. So yeah, I think, yeah, it's a complicated issue. One last thing that I want to mention is that Jairo is the director of a research and extension center called the Desert Research and Extension Center in the Imperial Valley, which is a part of the University of California system and the oldest research and extension center in the University of California system. And these research and extension centers are, they're sometimes in different states, they're called research farms. We call them agricultural research stations in Wisconsin. They're the lifeblood of all of our states that have, land grant systems, because critical research in different parts of the state outside of the university campus grounds, it takes place at these centers. And especially when you have different geographies, different soil types, different climates across a state, different communities, the research that happens at these research centers is serving those communities, as you'll hear Jairo talk about. And then the other thing about them is that I really appreciate is I love doing on-farm research, and I love partnering with farmers, but there are things that I need to do sometimes that I cannot ask a farmer to do with me, So sometimes I really want to torture the plants. And that's when we go to our research stations or these research and extension centers and are able to do research that is risky to do on a farm, but that's also where the innovation comes. So it's really special to have these across all of our university systems. And without further ado, let's listen to Sam's interview with Dr. Jairo Diaz.
Hola Jairo, bienvenido a Water Talk.
Thank you so much for the invitation. Hello, Malika and Faith. I really appreciate, this opportunity to talk about all the amazing things, we have here in Southern California, in the desert area.
When people think of agriculture in California, the first region that comes to their minds is the Central Valley. However, there is a highly productive agriculture area in the low desert region. Can you explain us where is the low desert region?
Sure, yeah. The low desert region in California, we are part of the Sonora desert ecosystem. In that desert, there are parts of Mexico, Arizona, and California. The desert, the Sonora desert region is so large, but it's so rich. The environment is, the summer are so hot, 120 Fahrenheit degrees we can have, in a couple of months. But then the winters are so mild where we can grow anything, in the winter. But all year around, we can grow things here. We have a really diverse agriculture, from livestock, feedlots, many feedlots we have in any part of the region, even here in Imperial County, in Yuma, Arizona, in Sonora, in Mexico, and also Baja California, in Mexico. We have plenty of forage crops like alfalfa, Sudan grass, and many other forage that grows, year-round. Other seasonal like Sudan grass. And when we talk about vegetables, we talk about carrots, green onions. Green onion is something that it grows a lot in Baja California. And actually, those green onions produced in Baja California and kind of 90% of what is consumed in Mexico. So it's a huge enterprise when we talk about agriculture here in California Low Desert region. The farm value of the agriculture in between Yuma, Arizona, Sonora, Mexicali Valley, and Imperial Valley, I guess it's about $9 billion. So just the Imperial County farm value is about $2.2 billion. So it's really, really a big enterprise, really diverse. We have, when we combine the whole agriculture in the low desert, we have about 200 agricultural commodities. Just put it in perspective, when we talk about agriculture in California, we talk about 400 different agricultural commodities. So just in this region, we have 200. So it's so diverse, it's so rich. We have small growers, large agriculture as well. So we have everything. Organic agriculture is something that is growing a lot too, especially in the vegetables.
But something that is interesting to think about is that, so we're growing food in the desert. So how is that possible? Where the water comes from?
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, I remember, when you talk, maybe when you are a kid or you talk about desert regions, the first thing is there is no water, there is no rain. But the Imperial County is located in the border with Arizona and Mexico. And this is an amazing corner because this is pretty much the tail of the Colorado River, meaning that for hundreds of years, the Colorado River used to flood all these valleys, the Imperial Valley, the Mexicali Valley, and also the Yuma area. So all these floodplains are so rich in soils. The soils are so rich. It has a lot of nutrients because came, from the upper Colorado River watershed. So that's what it is. Is the river is the one that brought all the soils, high quality soils, but then brought the water. Because our rain is so low, we have about 3 inches per year. Sometimes we have one big storm, 1 or 2 inches. So there is no rain, but there is plenty of water from the Colorado River. California has the largest allocation for the Colorado River. It's about 4.4 million acre feet of water. The allocation was divided among the different states, and they divided about 16 million acre feet of water. So we have 4.4 million acre feet of water. And the Imperial Irrigation District handles a little over 3 million acre feet of water. So basically, this irrigation district, the one in Imperial County, handles the largest water appropriation and one of the largest water appropriation in the states for irrigation purposes.
So Jairo, how does the region works? How does the agriculture works in the low desert region? Can you explain us about it?
Okay, as I said before, our weather patterns through the year are so diverse. For example, in the summer is so hot, over 100 degrees, 120, we can reach 120, 125 Fahrenheit. But the winters are so mild. Let's say it's 50 degrees in the day. Sometimes we have frozen days, but not that many. So meaning that we can grow things even in the winter. And that's what it is, that we are the off season where the north part of the United States is shut down. All the agriculture, in the winter in the United States is shut down in the north. We are heavily producing things. So, for example, cabbage. Cabbage is transplanted, started in October in the fields. And then you start, harvesting that through the winter season. And then you can plant carrots. Then in the winter, you can have spinach. So us here in Imperial Valley, along with Yuma in Arizona, we are known because we are the winter's salad bowl of the United States. Basically, all the salad that is in the supermarkets, even in February, March, January, all that produce, lettuce and many other things, spinach, are yield from our valleys, basically.
Yeah, and I mean, I do know that many of the business, many of the even the people working, they work throughout the region, and something that for me was an eye-opening experience was once that you and I we went together to Mexicali, to Mexicali Valley, and basically when we crossed there, I was super surprised. We were in a packing company of green onions. And I do remember seeing all these trucks of green onions coming to this facility, this huge barn with vans cleaning the green onions and then packing them, putting into coolers and large refrigerators the size of big rooms. And then when I was seeing all of that, wait a minute, I saw some of the boxes from Oxnard that they were packed these green onions there. And to me, it was, and also seeing different parts of the people working there and so on. So, could you tell us a little bit the production in the Mexicali Valley and how that is also put together with some of the production in Imperial?
Yeah. So let's gonna talk about right now. I'm located in the Desert Research Extension Center is located in Hallville. We have a couple of cities around. That's the Imperial County. I'm living in the center, about 20 minutes from Hallville. So just to give you some perspective, Yuma is about 50 minutes east from us. Mexicali, which is in the other side of the border, is about 20 minutes south from us. So as you can see, in less than 1 hour, you cover, a rich agricultural area. What that means does. The other thing is you cover, you cross a state, which you go to Arizona in 50 minutes, or you go south to Mexico in 20 minutes. So you cross the border to a different country. So the three areas are so distinguished. For example, in Mexico, salaries are so low. So that's why we have so many people crossing the borders in the morning. That's the labor, that cross the borders, and do the job here and then go back to Mexico. Sometimes that people from here in Imperial County works here, but they live in Yuma because Arizona is cheaper. The cost of living in Arizona is cheaper, but the wages are lower than here. So the highest wages we have in California, then in Arizona, and then we have Mexico. So people move around, and families as well. This is a big family, basically, because among Mexicali is about 1.5 million population. Imperial County is about 180,000 population, and Yuma, Arizona is about 200,000. So, it's a medium-sized and large city in Mexicali, but people knows and they have families and relatives all around. So they share, resources, they find out the way to live around. So, but the pool of labor comes pretty much from Mexico, basically, pretty much every day, especially, in the winter season where more labor is needed for harvesting and all the activities that are required. So people cross the border, works here, they follow these regulations here, but some growers and companies, they have produce areas in Mexicali too, because the Mexicali Valley is quite large as well. And so what they decided or what they figured out is, okay, the crops that are more labor intensive, we are going to put it in Mexicali, in Mexico, because it's way cheaper. 1 day of wages here in California, it means maybe about 10 days of work in Mexico. So you can imagine it's huge. It's a huge difference. So putting those labor-intensive crops in Mexicali, like green onions. Green onions is all about, labor, for harvesting. There is no machines, for harvesting that thing. So they have it over there. But then they export those produce here. But they follow all the regulations. So that produce is high quality because those companies follow pretty much the regulations for the United States. So it's high quality produce. And it's the same with Arizona. So the example with Arizona is the same. Sometimes you might more recognize than us on the volume of produce for the winter. But this is the thing, because in Arizona, energy costs are lower than here. So the produce that is harvested here, they move it to Arizona for the cool boxes because the energy prices are lower there. So, it's about to figure it out the way to produce at the lowest cost, but high quality.
And Jairo, I mean, this is very interesting in terms of what you started trying to explain us this as a region that operates together and that finds the strengths of each of these different pieces.
This is a big puzzle. So people has to, I guess it's good that the people understand. It's like living in a big city where the industries and so on, the people that work in industry, most of the time their commutes are maybe 2 hours, 3 hours. So they prefer, just to cross the border every day, every morning. That crossing it takes hours. For example, sometimes they start, the line for crossing the border at 1 in the morning, 2 in the morning. So they cross the border maybe in 3, 4 hours. And then they are get ready, in the Californian side. There is a bus that takes the labor. They move it to the fields. And at the end of the day, they get back. So all that, is because there is a lot of people that is binational. They are U.S. citizens, but also they are Mexican. They have a Mexican citizenship as well. Others are permanent residents or they have a work visa. So that works really well here in our valley. And the other thing too that people is maybe not aware is about the languages, because we are here in California, and in this corner is English and Spanish. No matter what, sometimes I go to places where I can see that people only speak English, but suddenly somebody just speaks Spanish, but people, do the effort, to communicate with those. There is no barriers here, not at all in languages. Or maybe you are speaking in Spanish and somebody can, speaking in English, and you do the effort, So that's what amazing the most, because I used to live in Mississippi for 11 years. And the Latino community over there is just 1%, 2%. So if you don't speak English, you cannot communicate. So I was so, because my mother language is Spanish. So I was so concerned about the people that only speak Spanish, in places where they cannot communicate. That's terrible, but here in the border, it's not a big deal, People understand those things, that it's either in Spanish and English in both. So people do the effort,
So thanks, Jairo. I mean, so we went really right into the low desert region area, but I do want to also ask you about. You're the director of the Desert Research and Extension Center. So, can you explain us a little bit more about what are the research projects that you are hosting there, and some of the outreach events that you have?
Well, I'm so pleased to be the director of the Desert Research and Extension Center. Just to give you some history on the center first. This center is the oldest research and extension center in the University of California system. We were established back in 1912. So basically, we share the senior water rights with the growers in the region, and that was the vision back in the time, that this region, the moment that we got the water from the Colorado River, the vision was this region will be a region that is going to produce a lot of food, not only for the States, but for the world. Starting with that vision, the Center has been moving through the years on having research that is needed for the region. We also have a lot of projects on irrigation, because, as I said, we have the largest irrigation, the largest water appropriation for the Colorado River. So that means that a lot of people is looking at us here in the region, because the western of the United States, a lot of people is moving to big cities, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, and many other places in the western. But the western of the United States is so dry. It's so dry. So people in the cities, they need water. So when they see us, using all these water resources here, they are looking to see they can take some of this water. Why? Because water has been transferred from the valley to LA, San Diego, even in Mexicali. Water has been transferred to Tijuana. So there is huge pipe system, and pump that move water through the mountains and goes to Tijuana. So a lot of irrigation research is conducted in our center. For example, I conduct research on onions. I wanted to see how we can be more effective and more efficient using irrigation and nutrients, in our onions, so that we can really target, effective amount of waters along with nitrogen amounts, so that we have high quality and high quantity onions. And that's what the growers matters the most. I have been talking with growers and they say, Jairo, here we are really committed. We want to use the best technology to use our resources, but we are focused on high quality and high quantity of our produce. So they are really committed, to use really resources to produce the most, on our land. So focus on that help us, at the end, the growers, to say, okay, you can use these techniques and then you can produce this amount, and you have high quality, and you are not, wasting water or wasting nutrients that at the end of the day, all that excess of water or nutrients goes to the Salton Sea, which is the Salton Sea is the end point of the runoff and the excess of water from this valley from Mexicali. And the Salton Sea is the most pollutant lake that we have in California. So all this research, that is conducted in our center about irrigation and nutrient management is all about to keep high productions, high quality as well, but using the right amount of resources. Other research is conducted on alfalfa. Forage crops here in the valley are the largest group of crops that we have. I bet it's about half of the land is all about forage, and I bet alfalfa is close to 200,000 acres here in the valley. So it's a large portion, and alfalfa grows all year round, meaning that in the summer it's going to require a lot of water. So researchers have been focused, on how to use drip irrigation. Can we use drip irrigation, in alfalfa to have high produce and high quality? So that kind of research, is conducted. How deep has to be the drip tape, installed? How separate has to be the drip lines as well? So all that research, can be conducted in our center. And the other thing that we do a lot, and we are really recognized, is that we have an educational program that we call Farm Smart. So this program was established in our center more than 15 years ago. This program is really focused on bring all this information in a really easy way, but clear, and using science-based information to create awareness from the little ones to the adults. So in an even year, we can bring about 8,000 people to our center. So we have groups of kids coming to our center, maybe 50, 60 kids that when they come to our center, we have two community educators specialists, Stacy Amparano and Stephanie Collins, that they have activities, all about hands-on activities, music, painting, and then we have a garden, and we take the kids, in a wagon, we take it to the field so that they can harvest. They can harvest carrots, they can have lettuce, so they have the whole experience, where the food is coming from, and what is the value of the agriculture here as well. We also have programs tailored for adults as well. So this region is also recognized along with Yuma, because a lot of people from up north, we call them snowbirds. They come, to the south to spend the winter because the winter is so nice. So we have a lot of visitors that they spend a lot of months, in the winter here. So we have also programs for them, for the adults, and we explain them is the agriculture in the valley and how we irrigate, what kind of produce we have, how is the agriculture, what is the impact of that agriculture. So that's a huge program that we call FarmSmart. And the other thing with that FarmSmart program is that we really need more underserved communities getting into agriculture and STEAM, the science, technology, engineering, and math careers. As maybe you and others have been experiencing, when we go to meetings and either is all about males, these meetings about science, technology is conducted even for Caucasian or males, but we don't see a good representation, a proportional representation of women, in those. And even Black people or Latinos or from other countries or from other backgrounds. So there is a lot of, we work a lot on that to really be the bridge to bring more Hispanics and underserved communities and females into the fields of agriculture, science, technology, engineering, and math. So that's what is FarmSmart. And it's really highly recognized program, not only for California, but also for the States.
Thank you so much. I had one other question, which was about climate change and just thinking about both, the crops that are grown in Imperial County, and then also thinking about the effects of climate change on the Colorado River and the Colorado River Basin itself in terms of water delivery. And so I'm just, wondering how you are thinking about and researching climate change adaptation in that region.
Okay, that question about climate change. Yeah, because people I'm glad that you put it in that way. Because one thing is the Colorado River Basin, and the other thing is the valley, the Imperial Valley, or the region, the desert region. Let's gonna start talking about the Colorado River Basin, the upper watershed. Because this basin is an arid watershed. So basically, I think so 90% of the runoff from the Colorado River Basin is coming from the snow melt, basically. So every year we are, crossing our fingers that the winter is going to bring a lot of snow, and then over the spring and the summer, it's going to be the melting of that water and replace, our reservoirs over there. But with all this climate change and climate variability, we are in over 2 decades or continuous drought. So basically the last over 20 years, the amount of runoff produced in the upper watershed has been less than the average. So basically we are using our savings from those reservoirs, Lake Mead and Lake Powell, because we are not getting the average. The average, about 80 years ago, something like that, was 16 million acre feet of runoff. But it has been less than that, in the last 20 years. So basically we are living out of the savings because those reservoirs can hold 4 times, the average of the Colorado River Basin. So that's a big impact. One thing is the way that the Colorado River was allocated. Imperial County growers, they have the senior water rights. That means that the junior holding water rights that are other states, they're going to be impacted first if there are any water reductions. And we are going to be the last, basically. In terms of the climate change here in Imperial County, I don't see that clear. Because again, I have been seeing some reports that say that, okay, if we are going to be more hotter, I guess the heat is going to improve alfalfa yields or forest yields. That may improve, if we are going to get more yields, a little bit more. But I don't know how to see it, for the summer where we have 120 Fahrenheit degrees, maybe for 3 months, and it's going to be just a slight amount, there. For the winters, I know we have been getting some showers, heavy showers in the fall, in the winter, but things are not that easy to see where we produce food. So I don't see that clear. It's more clear upper in the upper watershed, so that as a users at the end, we can the growers, have a better use of the water.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jairo. I've been talking to different people around the state, and it's always just so interesting to hear kind of the mix of what's really affecting farm operations between climate change, water, and labor. And it seems like where you are in the state, that mix can change a little bit. So I appreciate hearing about it in your region. Thank you.
Jairo, thanks a lot, and thanks also for describing the region, the low desert region. This region that it is in California. It is actually a transboundary interstate region that if you're eating vegetables in winter, yeah, they come from there. So, what would you like the listeners to know about what you do, and how can we support your work, Jairo?
Thank you, Sam. One thing that we need to really work together is all about food security. Because one thing that we do as a humans is eating. And if you wake up and you eat a piece of bread or an apple or a piece of whatever, it's about food. So we need to really get the voice out that food security is important. What is food security? Is that we keep investing in having agriculture here in our country, along with have really good partners like Canada and Mexico, because we share all these regions. We are just one region, especially here in the south. But I know that it's so important also our partners in Canada for other things. So I just wanted to tell the people that if you eat, we need your help so that we can keep moving forward investments in agriculture in the States. That is all about food security. We cannot depend on others because it has been, many years that United States has been the lead on technology and in producing food for not only for us but also for others. And we have all that capacity. Just imagine that we can bring water from the Colorado River, and we can hold that water in those big reservoirs over there at Lake Mead and Lake Powell, that they can hold 4 times the average runoff of the watershed. Those investments happened many years ago, and that was the opening gate for the western of the United States. Without not holding that water, there are impacts. I'm not going to argue that. There are impacts on that. But that opens the gate for the western United States to move forward. Without those investments, that was huge investments. They figured it out that without holding that water and then distribute that water, the western United States could be nothing. And now we can see the yield. This is all about the yield, So the people, I hope that the people can understand that it's so important to support farmers at all scales, farmers that are small, medium, large, and support our own agriculture so that we can continue, moving our lives, having high quality produce and high yields, here in the States. So I just wanted to mention that so that the people, when they have the power, to make decisions, they put food as one of the major things that we have to protect in our states. In our states.
Jairo, it's been a pleasure. Muchas gracias. And thanks for sharing all these insights with us. Thank you, and we'll see you around in Water Talk.
Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate it. It has been fun, talking with you. And I hope that we can continue, our friendship, and working together.
Well, that was a lovely throwback interview with Jairo Diaz. Well, Sam, Faith, what were your thoughts? Do you have any parting gifts?
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed talking with Jairo. I was reflecting on the fact that Sam and I were once at the Desert Research and Extension Center at one point and actually did cross the border together with a larger group. And it was a really interesting experience because we went on foot. And so, being in the long sort of line to cross, particularly back into the country, because I'm not sure what was going on at that point, but it was a nerve-wracking crossing even back then. So, just listening to Jairo talk a little bit about that relationship between Calexico and Mexicali, and having friends who are like from, El Centro, and who will talk about the fact that they have family on both sides of the border, right? And it's only like 10 miles. Border areas just take on such interesting dimensions. They're kind of like their own little countries, right? And you really feel that when you're in this area. So I think just, listening to Jairo talk about those relationships and the labor relationships, the family relationships, and just how fluid all of that is and how fluid it kind of all needs to be was super interesting. And I think really relevant today. How about you, Sam?
For me was the how bringing back this collaboration, seeing what is the strength on all the different pieces and bringing that strength to the larger component. So yes, labor, but also he's mentioning like, well, if it takes a lot of labor, certain crop, better in Mexico. But if we can do it in the US and it can be more mechanized, or we can do it a little bit more controlled somewhere here. And then if we need some refrigeration, going to Yuma or Arizona, and seeing all those pieces. And for me, it's also like these values of collaboration, these values of what you're seeing, what you mentioned, Faith, that it has identity, the border region. It has its own identity on living in between these different lines, but being proud of being there, productive. Also, the time that people may spend crossing the border every day. He was referring it like, well, it is like living in the city, but rather than long distances, it's just long lines.
It's like a part of the commute that people are factoring in.
Yeah. And also, I really like that he went from this kind of bigger picture of the tail end of the Colorado River all the way to, well, every other week we bring 60 students to our farm, and basically they cut their vegetables and we prepare a salad. So from really a plot scale all the way to the basin scale. So I really like those. What about you, Malika?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I just, again, this is a time when we hear a lot of people talk about the border in like a very far away, hard line kind of way. And I think it was really helpful to just think about how critical to our food system during the winter it is. Like they call the Imperial Valley the winter produce basket of America. So thinking about that relationship. And then also, of course, because it's a desert, they get 3 inches of rain a year. So thinking about that relationship with water and how we're using our water, all of those things are really interesting to me to think about together. And I guess my big takeaway going into a holiday weekend as you're at your table is to just think a little bit about those green onions and that lettuce when you're having your dinners. The stuff that we, are all pairing with the richer foods is coming from somewhere, probably the borderlands.
So for all of you listening, happy holidays.
Yes, from Water Talk.
Thank you for listening to the Water Talk podcast. I'm Faith Kearns, and I'm the Director of Research Communications with the Arizona Water Innovation Initiative at Arizona State University.
My name is Samuel Sandoval. I'm a professor at UC Davis and a cooperative extension specialist in water resources management at the University of California Division of Agriculture and Natural Resources.
I'm Molly Kanoko, assistant professor and state extension specialist in agricultural water management at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. If you enjoy our show, please review, listen, like, and subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts. Please find transcripts and additional content at watertalkpodcast.com. Original music by Paloma Herrera Thomas.